Oh, yeah. Yechidah Shebenefesh. That's what Yechidah looks like. Coherence. Everything is one. You don't go away from it. You don't have to go away anywhere.
You can actually
Full presence.
You can relate to your part of that mind.
Yeah.
And you can see the others. That's the simchas of Ahavas Yisrael.
Of course, that's the Ava, yeah.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, there's no way, nothing has to be avoided or escaped.
Yeah.
We don't have to distract ourselves. Yeah, that's what Yechidah Shebenefesh looks like. It's full presence. Every part of the soul is present. Yeah, on the bima, no? On the bima, I think. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, yesterday was very, very special. We learned the second chapter of the mimer on Krias Shema in the Likkutei Torah Parshas V'eschanan. So we're now up to page 23, but on top it should say V'eschanan. We're holding Seif Gimel. So on top it should say V'eschanan, and it's page 23. In the Hebrew it's Yud Beis, column 2. Daf Yud Beis, column 2. Wednesday morning we learned Perek Aleph. Thursday morning we learned Perek Beis of the mimer, the second chapter, and now we're holding Gimel, which is at the end of the page, Yud Beis, column 2. You'll see all the way on the bottom, or page 23 on the left column on the bottom, Gimel. The mimer begins, Inyan Krias Shema Echad V'Ahavta, because it's focused on the theme of Krias Shema and on the word Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and then also on V'Ahavta, and continuing the first parsha. Today's class is dedicated by Yishai Horowitz, La'elu Nishmas, and in loving memory of his beloved father, Reb Gershon Chai ben Reb Yisrael, in honor of his yahrzeit on the 24th day of Av. Thank you, Reb Yishai, and may your father's soul continue to be a source of love and empowerment and confidence and blessing and inspiration to you and to the entire family for many long, happy, and healthy years. Reb Gershon Chai ben Reb Yisrael, Tehei Nishmas Yitzruda B'tzar HaChaim V'Kitzav Rananu Sheikhne Yafar, and thank you very, very much. Today's class is also dedicated with a big mazel tov to Binyamin and Leah Stern in honor of their marriage last night in the Holy Land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, dedicated by Ezra, David, Philip, our dear friend. Thank you very much, and mazel tov to Binyamin and Leah. May you have a binyan adayad and a blissful and incredibly blessed life, materially and spiritually. La'arichis yamim v'shanim tovos, and thank you very, very much. Okay. So, we'll continue today, Siv Gimel. I don't know how to do a summary of yesterday's class. The Rabbi says it's impossible. So those who heard it. They could still review it, and those who didn't hear it can review it. It's on the yeshiva.net. And you could review the first class, the second class. But just to summarize one point, the theme of the mimer is that we have, and this is a very fundamental idea in Kabbalah and Chassidus, we have what's called Hishtalshelus and we have what's called beyond Hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus means, the Hishtalshelus comes from the word shalsheles, chain. So Hishtalshelus means when the infinite one, the Ein Sof, wished to reveal some of his energy in a way that it can be received, it can be experienced, it could be manifested in a particular realm that didn't have access to it. Or the way the Alter Rebbe puts it, the definition of Hishtalshelus is that, he just puts it beautifully, the line was, Kol Hishtalshelus Uliyas B'chinas Gilui. The definition of Hishtalshelus is there should be a Gilui. What do we mean there should be a Gilui? Gilui means revelation, a revealed reality, Gilui. Revelation means that it can be revealed in a place outside of itself. That's what Hishtalshelus is. So Hishtalshelus was a revolution, to take that which is infinite, remains infinite, not describable, because this is all pre-words, pre-thoughts, pre-concept, pre-logic. Right? We're talking already all from Hishtalshalos. That's where we talk. We talk from the spectrum of Hishtalshalos. It's a huge spectrum, from Atzilus all the way down here. But it's still all Hishtalshalos. That's part of a Shalshelis. One rung leads to another rung, which 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 leads to the lowest rung. In mystical language, it begins with Atzilus, what he calls Chachma of Atzilus, and it goes all the way down to Asiya, our world, until the last grain of sand, the last particle of an atom, the last droplet of water, the last cell, the last neuron, the last creature. But it's all part of Ishtalshalos. And it's the same energy that evolves or devolves is the word. It goes through a Yerida through this Ishtalshalos. The highest level of Ishtalshalos is, in order there should be a Gilui. There should be some form of expression of the Ein Sof. And therefore, everything in Ishtalshalos, from the highest to the lowest, ultimately it has an erech. You don't say on it ein arech lecha. Even though you're talking about what really seems like an infinite rungs from the highest to the lowest. And you can't even compare the two. But nonetheless, because ultimately the lowest comes from the highest, there is some form of commonality. There's some tzad hashava, there's some connection. As he puts it there, there's some erech. Obviously, it's not an erech. You buy a house for $1 million, you say the house is worth $1 million. Or the tissue box is worth $2. That's where it's mamish, be'erech. You paid for a cup of coffee, $1.50, $2.50. It's be'erech. Yeah. When you say, but he gives an example of erech, very interesting. He gives this example. What's the real erech in Chumash? That for a person, the value of a person is 50 shekel. Now that's a joke. The value of a person is not 50 shekel. But in the halachas of Erkin, that's what it is. Depends on the age, depends on the gender. If you say, I want to donate the value of this human being, man or woman, child or adult, senior citizen or youngster, to the Beis HaMikdash, every person has an erech. So what's the relationship between the value and the person? This is really the erech of the person. I mean, come on. A person is worth 50 shekel.
By the way, in the language of mathematics, there is a word for it, common denominator.
Common denominator. Denominator, yeah. Nonetheless, there's some connection. In other words, if you're 3 years old, it's one erech. If you're 40 years old, it's another erech. If you're a man, it's one erech. Obviously, it's a very, very remote connection. And why the Torah chooses exact number? I mean, to really give the number, you have to say, if you donate the value of a person, it's priceless. I don't know, you have to give zillions of dollars to the Beis HaMikdash, which is not possible. So he's not getting into the details why this erech was chosen. But the point is, it's some form of saying this captures, at least symbolically, the value of a person. Does it really capture the value of the person? This is the erech of the person. It's not. So his point is that you say Atzilus and Asiya are be'erech. It doesn't mean be'erech that this is really, that the highest level of Ishtalshalos is expressed in the lowest level of Ishtalshalos. But there's some form of connection because it's Ishtalshalos. Or the way he puts it differently is that even the highest levels of spirituality could be manifested within physical containers. The mind is inside the brain, and if there's, God forbid, a physical defect in the brain, it affects the soul's energy manifesting in the brain. It's through the brain. The power of vision is a spiritual power. The soul has vision before we come into a body. The soul has a mind before we come into a body. Chachma, Bina, Das are not bodily functions, they're soul functions. When we're in a body, they come through the body. So here you have a physical brain that becomes a true container of spiritual energy, of Chachma, Bina, Das. So it's all, there's an erech there. You can't say the brain and the mind are not connected at all. No, of course they're connected. Could you compare the physical brain to the mind? You can't. But there's an erech over there. The physical eye, you can't compare to the power of vision, to the spiritual power of vision. But there's an erech over there. That's why the power of vision is manifested viscerally in and through the eye. Yeah. That's all when we're talking about shtalshlos, which is a scale. It's a scale, it's a gigantic scale. Yeah. But the Alter Rebbe says the whole Eitz Chaim, the Eitz Chaim is the Arizal's main Kabbalistic work, revolves around Hishtalshalos. He begins with the Tzimtzum, which is the source of Hishtalshalos, And he ends with the creation of heaven and earth. The Eitz Chaim has many, many gates and portals and sha'arim. He starts off with the tzimtzum. That's how Eitz Chaim starts. That in the beginning, when Hashem wanted to create the world, the first thing that needed to happen was a tzimtzum, which is the contraction, the concealment, the withdrawal of the infinite light of Ein Sof, so that there would be a space for worlds. Or to put it in the language of this mimer, in order to allow for hishtalshalus, to allow for gilui, to allow for the Ein Sof to be revealed in something that's, so to speak, outside of it, at least in its own perception. And it ends with the creation of heaven and earth, which is our world. And in between, he goes through hishtalshalus, the Eitz Chaim. Now, when somebody learns Kabbalah, when somebody learns Eitz Chaim, those who learn it, you see clearly here that Alter Rebbe, what happens when you get to the highest rung of Ishtalshalus? It's pretty awesome. Chachma v'Atzilus, you can't even describe it, what it is. It's actually, it says that Alter Rebbe, when he would write the word Atzilus, so in his Ksavim, in his writings, it's always Aleph Tzadik Yud. So they say that he got so emotional when he wrote the word, he could never finish the word. The Hisrakshus, the emotions of writing the word Atzilus, was Aleph Tzadik Yud and apostrophe. He couldn't finish the word. Because when he wrote about something or he said it, he was experiencing it. It wasn't, data. It wasn't like the globe, the map. Oh, this Atzilus B'riyah. It was the experience of it. The experience of the world of Achdus, the world of Atzilus, which is the entire Ein Sof, the way it's emanated in the world of Atzilus, which is the world, the beginning of the 10 spheres, beginning with Chachma of Atzilus. It's all a world of unity. It's pure divine. But it's the way the divine is already in a world of Gilui, in a world of Atzilus. Like we said, it's the interface between pure Ein Sof, which has no definition, and we can't describe it, to the whole world of Ishtalshalus. Atzilus is the beginning, Ishtalshalus, especially Chachma of Atzilus. Like he explained at length in chapter 1. When you learn Kabbalah, so much, everything is Ishtalshalus over there. And you go higher in this world from this world and this world from that world. And it's all spiritual. It's really all a map of psychology. It's the map of the soul. It's the spiritual science of the universe. It's the spiritual physics of the universe. And therefore it's the whole spiritual mechanism of all the workings of the world and the workings of man and woman. Nasa Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmusenu, because we mirror the image of Ishtalshalus. Any pchine in Ishtalshalus exists in psychology too, in the human soul. There's no such a thing. Chachma v'Atzilus, Malchus of Atzilus, Adam Kadmon, Atik, I'm just throwing names. Kav, Reshimu, Akudim, Nekudim, Brudim, Toyu, Tikkun, Yosher, Igulim, right? Tzimtzum, Gilui, Chalol, Makampanoi, all these things, Reshimu, all these words, they come from Eitz Chaim. They're all words from Eitz Chaim. These are all there's not a level or experience that is not mirrored in the human soul. That's what makes it very exciting, very relevant. If you're just learning it as abstract madregas, so for some people it's interesting, but most people, well, what do I have from it? And essentially, in Torah Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe, the whole world of Chassidus really tried to show the Arizal in the spirit, in the soul. What does that mean for me? It's not just a map of Seder Ishtalshalus, it's a map of your own Seder Ishtalshalus. We all have a Seder Ishtalshalus. And like he explained, that Seder Ishtalshalus really is the ability to identify in something where it comes from, tracing it back to its source, deeper and deeper and deeper. Every Maisa has an antecedent, it's called Dibur. Every Dibur has an antecedent, it's called Machshava. Every Machshava has an antecedent, it's called Midos. There's no words that are not fueled by thought. And there's no thought that's not fueled by some experience, by some emotion. And there's no emotion that's not fueled by some awareness. And awareness itself, you have Das, and you have Bina, and you have Chachma, right? And you have the source. So it's layers and layers and layers, but everything can be go back. And this is very, very important in life, because when you could see things not only for face value, but you can appreciate the inner dynamics of what is producing them, it's a different type of life. You could take responsibility, you could be in control, you could see the process of what's happening. Right? We always talk about fortunate is the person who can identify their triggers, be honest about them, not worship them, but also not repress them. See what they're up against, and slowly see how I can heal them, how I can deal with them. If I have no appreciation that they come from somewhere, then they could just keep me completely hostage and captive. But when you can understand Hishtalshalos, you understand what looks like something on one level. If you go up, 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 you'll just see a very innocent child who's just broken. So this stubborn, narcissistic, philosophical, brilliant analysis is just a little child's lack of safety. That's what Hishtalshalos is. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. Suddenly the big bubble, it's not so big. It comes from... So it's all an erech. Everything is an erech. So you have Hishtalshalos the way it's in Kabbalah. You have the way that Hishtalshalos is articulated in Torah Chassidus, where there's much more focus on the avoid of it, meaning the psychology of it, the ramifications in a person's life. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying you could learn the whole Eitz Chaim, you could become a baki and say the Hishtalshalos, and you don't understand one nakuda. And that is that this is all a ladder that can bring you to the highest rung. What happens on the highest rung? What happens in the highest rung is, what Alter Rebbe says, the whole Hishtalshalos is only a stepping stone to be able to go above Hishtalshalos. The whole Hishtalshalos is essentially, it's a gym, it's an exercise room, right? Which includes all of reality, to really touch reality. It's a stepping stone. It's the ladder, you climb, you get to the highest rung, and now you need to go above Hishtalshalos, because that's really what reality is. And that's the whole nekuda of this mimer, that all of Hishtalshalos begins with Chachma. But embedded in the soul is something that is from pre-Hishtalshalos. That's what he calls here, the Ratzon Shalamaylam and Adas, the Ratzon Shalamaylam and HaChachma, where all minds, all ideas cannot touch it, will not convince you this way or that way, not because the mind is not powerful, because this comes from a deeper realm that the mind has no access to it. Yeah, that's how he right away began the mimer. Antu chad v'la b'chushbon, Hishtalshalos comes from an author, from the divine Ein Sof, who is completely beyond, and over there you say Ein Aroich, over there there's no erech. So that means that the erech between Atzilus and Asiya is closer than the erech between Atzilus and the Ein Sof. We have to understand that. Atzilus to Asiya is also infinitely remote, but you still say erech. That's what he says in this mimer. Atzilus and above Atzilus, it's a whole different Inyan. How could you say that Atzilus is Olam Ha'achdus? Atzilus is Ein Sof. Atzilus is Elikus. It's not even called Bria. Chachma of Atzilus is Mamash Chachma. Nonetheless, between Atzilus and Asiya, there's so to speak. I'm saying so to speak because I don't want to minimize it. But there's more than the Ein Aroich of Atzilus to Asiya, you can't even compare that to the Ein Aroich of Atzilus, Legabe higher than Atzilus. Because Atzilus is the beginning of Hishtalshalos. Beyond Hishtalshalos, that's Hashem, that's reality. And on this, so after Perek Aleph was focused on Hishtalshalos, Perek Beis is focused on beyond Hishtalshalos. And what was his nekuda? That when you say beyond Hishtalshalos, it means Ani Hashem Lo Nissi. It's the same Ein Sof that was pre the world, that's going to be after the world, that's also in middle of the world. Not like we spoke about when when the mind comes into the brain captures the mind. I cannot think about something outside of my brain. I can't say I have a mind outside of my brain. When you're living in this world, your mind works through your brain. I want to have vision, not through my eyes. I don't have vision outside of my eyes. And therefore, if my eyes, God forbid, are damaged, my vision is damaged. That's called, in Chassidus, tfisa and islapshus. Tfisa means you teufis something. When I'm teufis this cup, you can't take it out of my hands. It's in my hands. Yes, it's defined by my hand. That's what tfisa means. Right? I'm holding on to this. It's about me. I'm holding on to it, and it's being held by me. That's what islapshus means. When you're malubish in something, you're present in something, right? I'm wearing a shirt. This is the shirt I'm wearing. My body is now in this keli, in this vessel. That's what tfis and islapshus means. It's a real relationship. You're malubish in it. You define it, it defines you. But the whole ishtalshelus, the Alter Rebbe says, is all malchus. It's shmoi. It's the name. But the etzem of Ein Sof is loishanisi, and therefore it saturates. Like we learned also in the previous mimer, Al-Kein Yemer HaMoishlam, very stark this nekuda, what Soiva will. Right. It saturates every nekuda as Ein Sof, as infinite. That's like the whole Hishtalshalus is in the womb of its mother, in the womb of God. So in the world of Hishtalshalus itself, which experiences the concealment, I am I, you are you, and everything has its own identity. And that's why Hishtalshalus is very serious. It's the source of diversity and identity. But there's always that nekuda that's beyond Hishtalshalus. The Alter Rebbe says that's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Echad, this is the Echad of Antu Chad V'lo B'chushbon. The true one is, and that's what creates V'aftas Hashem Elokecha B'chol Avavcha. What's B'chol Avavcha? With Yechidish B'nefesh. As he goes into the whole arichas, different things in life touch different parts of the soul. Right? There's war novels, there's hearing stories about war, there's your own business, there's other people's business. I hear about another person's business, it may be interesting to me, it's a study in economics, but what happened to his business at the end is not negeya. It's like you have a course, you take a course about business, so you learn about different models. It's not negeya to me what happened to IKEA, or what happened to AOL, or what happened to Kodak, or what happened to Bear Stearns, or what happened to Lehman Brothers. It's an interesting analysis on people, on businesses adapting to the new world, not adapting to the new world. I'm just giving an example. But Lepo, what happens? It's not negay. It's interesting to me if I like this, if I need it, want to know it, if I want to know it. Like he speaks about wars, about business. Then there's things that relate deeper and deeper, and then he says, but still, you could step away from it. You could step away from it. My business may be going through difficulties, but you can go for a week away. You want to go with your family, and you go away from it. You put away your phone for a week. Somebody asked me if Evim and Achai is still a practical issue. Evim and Achai. I said, yeah, take somebody's phone away from them. It's one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. But a mature person, a person who has priorities, a person who has really, I can understand. There's something that's relevant. I'm not irresponsible. I have to deal with lawyers. I have to deal with the bank. I have to deal. I'm going to come back Monday. We'll deal with it. But this week, I'm not dealing with it. They can do that. It touches your soul. It's not like it wasn't a war novel that you finish the book, you're done 5 minutes later. This is affecting you. It's your parnasa, it's your family, it's your future, it's your house, it's your revenue. Right? It's a Gavaldic example. It's not just an external part of the soul. But nonetheless, you can move away from it. It's not Yechidah Shebenefesh. When it touches Yechidah, Yechidah means it's the only thing. There's no moving away from it. This is reality. That's Yechidah. It's the only thing.
It's a difficult concept because we cannot grasp it for one reason. Because escaping from Sefer
Hishtalshelus.
not an escape.
Say der Hishtalshelus. You could say Sefer, okay. Say der Hishtalshelus.
I'm sorry.
No problem, no.
So it's we can see it as it's not even a quantum leap, because quantum leap means
Right.
you go from
Right.
sphere to another.
Right.
That's a quantum leap.
Yeah.
Basically a different state, but it's still all predefined.
Yeah.
Here it's something else, and I think maybe that's the last of the Zora that we need to overcome, which is you cease to exist.
Yeah.
In a way,
Beautiful.
existence is.
Of course.
In a way, like
Of course.
you give it up.
Exactly. It's not a quantum leap. Quantum leap is from Asiya to Atzilus. It's from one sphere to a completely different sphere, where you have to let go of everything, all ego, but it's still a predefined sphere. Here you're talking about a journey from existence to the absence of existence. What do we mean to the not to the real to the real existence, but from the perspective of existence is the absence of existence. Because when the Arizal says that the genesis of the world had to happen through tzimtzum. What does tzimtzum mean? Through the withdrawal of the divine. That means that the entire genesis of creation is not rooted in God expressing himself. It's rooted in God concealing himself. Right? It's important to understand this. Usually we say a piece of art expresses the artist. You want to know who Chagall was? You want to know who Raphael was? You want to know who Rembrandt was? You want to know who Picasso was? Yeah, I should say Zalman Kleinman, Hendel Lieberman. Look at these paintings. You want to know who this architecture is? Kiba Cook, take a look at a mansion. You want to know what a writer is? You want to see a literary genius? Read this book. Read this article. You want to hear a musician? You want to hear a talent? You want to see who Mozart was? Listen to this symphony. On the contrary, that is the whole idea of art. Right? Take a look at this athletic, take a look at this basketball game, and you'll see what an athlete is. Look at that move. Look how he got the ball into the hoop. You want to see God? Look at the world. Go to the Grand Canyon, take a look. You don't even have to go to the Grand Canyon. You can take one leaf off a tree, study the leaf, and you'll see God. And it's true. Hashamayim misaprim kvoid keil, we say in Tehillim, umayse yadav magid harakia. The heaven tells the story. The earth, morabu masacha Hashem, we say every morning, kulam b'chach masisa. That's true. Comes Darizal says, it's a very limited truth. Because what creation required was God not expressing himself, not God expressing himself. It's the post-tzimtzum. It's what comes into Ishtalshalos. It's God letting go of himself. It's God suspending himself completely. It's abnegating himself, so to speak. In the presence of Ein Sof, there's no art, it's all Ein Sof. There's no experience. It's pure Ein Sof. It's not like the artist. You understand? That's a chiddush of tzimtzum. That the genesis of creation was God renouncing himself. It's Mesiras Nefesh. It's a chfaloyren. It's a whole different mahalach. So when he says the Eitz Chaim starts with tzimtzum, that's the genesis of there could be hishtalshlus. Once there's a tzimtzum, now you can even talk about Atzilus. Again, Atzilus is still divine. Atzilus is not Klippa. Atzilus is purely divine. But it's called hishtalshlus. You speak about Chachma, you speak about Binna. It's an interface. Like the 70 elders that could serve as the interface between Moshe Rabbeinu and the nation. And that's why Hashem calls it Atzilus, Vatsalti min haruach. So that journey is letting go of everything. But in that letting go of everything, you have everything. And once you, so to speak, hit that spot emotionally, experientially, it's not a rotzen based on chachma. It's not a rotzen based on ishtalshlus. What is it? It's pure Ein Sof. So there's no part of you that is out of it. It's not like, okay, now we're stepping away from this. There's no, where are you stepping away? Where are you stepping away to? The moment you touch that frequency, and I know the word touch doesn't apply here and frequency doesn't apply here, but I'm sorry. I'm talking from ishtalshlus a little bit. Huh? But the moment you touch that frequency, it's b'chalav avcha. It's love with your whole heart. What's with your whole heart? What does it mean with your whole heart? With your whole heart means every layer of the heart is there. It's yichida. It's, as he says, ad mitzui hanefesh. It's everything. It encompasses the person completely. It's yachid. I can't stay, okay, and now for a week we're going to forget about this. That can only happen in things that are limited. And the question is, how deep is it? So from Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad comes that v'ahavta. And that's Pshat. The Gemara says, Kol ha'mayrich be'echad. Marichin lo yamav v'shnoisa. Like this is this is the Alter Rebbe's Pshat. Kol ha'mayrich be'echad. Marichin lo yamav. In Pnimiyus HaTorah, days are metaphors for love. Because a day is a time of light and expression and manifestation and revelation. And that's what love is, Ava. You know what we say, there's bright times in the marriage, there's dark times in the marriage, right? Brightness is a representation of a time of gili, of revelation, of expression. Love expresses people, it reveals people, it's like the sun is shining. That's why we associate, sunrise with an arousal, with an expression of the self. You're open. You're not blocked. You're not dark. So kol ha'mayrich be'echad. If the echad becomes long, what's that long? Long doesn't only mean that I say the word echad long. That's not so hard. Echad. Kol ha'mayrich be'echad means that there's an arichis in my echad. In other words, the echad is prolonged. It fills you. It's not just you say echad and weiter. The person dedicates time and energy to live with this echad, marichin lo yamav, then their love goes to a different level. Their love is prolonged. Because it's an ava of yichidish benefesh, it's an ava of b'chol avavcha. It's full presence with the person's entire being. And of course, that's the deepest form of love. It's the deepest form of bliss. They can't say, okay, and now we're done with this. It's not compartmentalized. It's all encompassing. There's no nikuda of your heart that stays out of it. And it's very experiential. It's extremely experiential. In other words, the experience of this is always it's extremely regulated. It's very serene. There's no urgency. There's no control. There's no manipulation. There's no agenda. Because the words they all stop applying. There is a death of ego. There's a complete death of ego. The ego needs nothing. Not because you're insecure. Because the word security, insecure and secure are exactly the same thing. Because you're just rooted in a reality where you don't have to judge yourself if you're secure. Of course you're secure. Why should you're secure as much as God is secure? I mean, is he secure? I don't think he suffers from insecurity. You understand what I'm saying?
It's interesting to find that people say Shema, dying al Kiddush Hashem, dying, in other words, it's not just that we're claiming Hashem as one. It's mamish the nekuda of Shema. It's definitely itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out in history in very painful moments. It still comes out. You see it with the hostages. It came out in very painful moments. It's really the essence of bliss, but it comes out sometimes in the most painful moments. That the person is ready to surrender everything that they kept dear, that was really dear for them. That means it's deeper than everything. What's deeper than existence? What's deeper than life? It will do anything for life. What, money is more important than life? What's more important than life? Your house, your job, your covet. Obviously. People go through such painful procedures for years just to live another few months. So how is it that somebody could surrender that? How could somebody surrender that? I'm talking from a place of presence. It's very hard to talk about. But there's an element, this is a surrender to beyond ishtalshelus, which deep down they know is not the end of their identity. It's the essence of everything. It's the ultimate identity. It doesn't look like identity. It doesn't have to look like identity. But one thing is dying for it, and one thing is living for it. I don't know. We have to be very, very in awe and in reverence. I'm extremely in awe of this. But, very nice. Even when you're on vacation, but menuchi, you should still yakdish v'shemacha. Yeah. You're still cynical after this mimer. How could you be cynical? But okay, it's fine. I also don't, yeah.
Sometimes we can experience this. So is this just the that we're experiencing? I was never in that service, so can I really be in that space without skipping any levels?
The whole nekuda of you're asking, could you really be in this space without bypassing? The whole chiddush of this mimer is, it's not can you be in this space, you're always in this space. Ani Hashem loishan nisi means that we're always in this space. The question is how blocked I am to the awareness of it, to the experience of it. which is normal because we are all products of Ishtalshalos. It has tremendous ramifications in the whole world of healing and psychology and therapy, by the way, and plant medicines and all forms of healing, somatic and energy and psychoanalysis and talk therapy. Because really, I'm just a little abstract maybe, but this is really the truth. All of therapy at best is in the world of Ishtalshalos. That's what it does, right? And I'm talking about even the most real and genuine healers who are really doing incredible work. That's what it's trying to heal. It's trying to heal my perception of self based on what I heard from my mother or my father or my brother or my sister or my school or my community and my environment and my genetics, epigenetics, whatever, everybody's story, hurt, pain, whatever it is. So, and I'm trying to work through that Ishtalshalos and to go back to a more pristine, a more innocent, a more pure place. And that's incredible. Now, in that itself, there is Ishtalshalos of Kedusha and there's Ishtalshalos of Klippa, meaning you could bring people back to their divine self. You could bring people back to their truest self, which is moral and noble and authentic and holy, right? And that's what good healing looks like. But that's all in the realm of Ishtalshalos. The moment a person touches the Nekuda that's beyond Ishtalshalos, what do they learn? They were always healed. They were always in the most perfect state that they can be. And that's real healing. That's real healing. Geula Goila, yeah. The moment you put the Aleph into Goila, it was always Geula. What you thought was Geula. You just didn't see the Aleph. That's what Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi means. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi of Sayu Kalalman means that everything is in the womb of God. Everything. The whole Ishtalshalos too. So you say, so why are we working on ourselves? The answer is because we need to work through Ishtalshalos. So the Alter Rebbe says the whole Eitz Chaim is talking about Ishtalshalos. It's not a waste of time. It's because it's a stepping stone. You need to work through the whole Ishtalshalos. She should be able to say, and now we go above Ishtalshalos. You could work through the whole Ishtalshalos and think that's it. And there are those taka in their world of Kabbalah. Yeah. They're not teufus. This the Rebbe Rashab once said. Something very interesting. It seems strange. The Welt sagt, you know the word. The Welt sagt, as Chassidus is a beard of Kabbalah. The emes is as Kabbalah is a beard of Chassidus. The world says Chassidus is an explanation on Kabbalah. The truth is, it's the other way around. Kabbalah is an explanation on Chassidus. Now, what did he mean? What the world says makes a lot of sense. You could read Kabbalah. It's very, very enigmatic. It's riddle-like. It's code. It's all code language. Mathematics, spiritual mathematics. Ma flew into Ban. There was a Shviras HaKelim. There's netzutzes here. They picked up these netzutzes. Boom. It's a whole map, but it's a completely spiritual code language map of Kabbalah. It's a language of Kabbalistic mathematics, and it fits, and especially the Arizal. And it's intricate, and it's incredible, and it's powerful, and it's exciting if you understand it. I mean, it's very, very difficult to understand. Most people, they start reading it, they shut down after 2 minutes. I mean, you don't know what hit you. And every level is connected to everyone else, and then the light comes out from here, and it hits here, and then it goes there, and that's the pshat of this story, and the whole chumash is in that light. So Chassidus came and tried to give us an explanation. What is Ishtalshalos, and what is Spheris, and what is Olamis, and what is Neshamis, and what is Tikkunim, and what is Kavanis, and what is Yichudim. The Baal Shem Tov, tried to make it relatable to people, and Alter Rebbe Mipsari Echzel Lekah, look at it in your own soul, and always giving Mishalom of Koiches HaNefesh and this. So that's what the world says. So the Rebbe Rashab says no. That's a very limited perspective. Really, Kabbalah is an explanation of Chassidus. First of all, historically, that's not the case. The Baal Shem Tov was born in 1698. The Baal Rizal passed away 1572. So between the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov, there was more than 100 years. The Arizal passed away 1572, Shin Lamed Beis. The Baal Shem Tov was born 1698, Tafnun Ches. So you're talking about almost like 150 years when the Baal Shem Tov was teaching. And then the Maggid, and then Alter Rebbe. So you're talking about centuries. Kabbalah didn't come after Chassidus. Chassidus came after Kabbalah. Of course, there were Kabbalists after the Baal Shem Tov, some big ones, very big ones. The Ramchal lived in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, and you had the Rashash, and you had Rav Sharabi, and you had the Vilna Gaon, that school. You had different schools of Kabbalah in the time of the Baal Shem Tov. The school of the Ramchal and the school of the Vilna Gaon, the Kabbalah Sagra, and Kabbalah Saramchal, and Kabbalah Sarashash. It's 4 streams of Kabbalah. You had Chassidus, the Baal Shem Tov, you had the Rashash, Shalom Sharabi, and you had the Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Lutzato, and you had the Vilna Gaon. So it's different, it's very interesting systems of Kabbalah. But the world of Kabbalah is pre-Chassidus. What did the Rebbe Rashab mean? So this mimer, we can understand what he means. You understand what I'm getting at? Huh?
It's exactly the same as physics and mathematics.
Physics and mathematics, exactly.
Like atom exists
Before math.
Formula E equal MC squared.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
mathematics.
Yeah. Very good. Physics employs the language of mathematics, but physics is not mathematics. The atoms existed before any mathematical formula of EMC square. Very good. E equals MC square. The atom existed before. The matter existed before. The energy existed before. Physics employs the language of mathematics. Maybe it could have employed a different language. I don't know. That's number one. Yeah. Number two, the states of physics that the world of mathematics cannot deal with. You need to use different formulas because mathematics is not a keli for those realms of physics. The deeper you go into physics, the less mathematical formulations, to the point that there's so much paradox and such mystery, which is literally borders on the infinite, or is literally the infinite, and full of paradox, that the language of mathematics breaks down. So there's 2 things. First of all, physics uses mathematics, but it's not mathematics, it's a whole different world. And there's levels of physics that you can't have mathematics. Kabbalah is Seder Hishtalshelus. It teaches the whole system of creation. And it's incredibly powerful. What the Alter Rebbe came to reveal was not the system of Hishtalshelus. He came to reveal Achdus Hashem. Einoid Mulvadai. The Nikud of Achdus Hashem, which is beyond Hishtalshelus. So Kabbalah is the language, so to speak, lahavdil. It's the Torah language, the Kabbalistic, mystical, spiritual language, to be able to show the process of how Achdus Hashem unfolds in a multi-complex, diverse, dimensional world, that in every nekuda of the world there's ultimately a flow of the Ein Sof. That's what Hishtalshelus is. So it's the language that elaborates and it's Meirich Be'echad and explores all of the Inyanim of Hishtalshelus. But what's the nekuda of it? One thing, Achdus Hashem, Einoid Mulvada. Or in the Alter Rebbe's Lashon, to go beyond Hishtalshelus. And therefore, there's also a nekuda where that language of Hishtalshelus stops. Ein Aroich. Like he says, Eitz Chaim begins with Tzimtzum, ends with Bria Shemayim Varetz, because that's where the language works. So really the whole Kabbalah came to explain, so to speak, Kabbalah is a beer of Chassidus, right? He's not Chas v'Shalom minimizing Kabbalah, fakert. He's explaining how it's all one. You could learn Kabbalah and think you're learning a map, a spiritual map, an interesting map, a fascinating map. Also how you impact the higher worlds, and that there's always a connection, and there's a relation between the higher and the lower, and how neshamas are rooted, and how history is one long evolution, and Gilgulim, and the balance between good and evil, and how everything has an impact. You know, the rope we always learn about, the ripple effects of the Yaakov Chevel Nachalasai, and that nothing in history is a mistake, and there's always different states of consciousness, and it's always a struggle of enlightenment from the lower to the higher to the deeper. And that's all very, very powerful. The spiritual GPS of the universe, the spiritual physics and the spiritual science of the universe. Spiritual chemistry, literally spiritual chemistry of every nekuda in the Bria, beginning with the person and the entire universe, spiritual universes. And then Chassidus says it's all a string theory. It's a string theory. The whole chemistry is here to manifest that nekuda of oneness, the Einoid Mulvada. And that's the Yichidish B'Nefesh. And that's why the focus is the Achdus Hashem. The B'chol Vavcha, that Yichidish B'Nefesh. So you go through Hishtalshalos, and you go, and then you come to the highest rung. Don't get stuck in Hishtalshalos. Hishtalshalos is the stepping ground that we work through. It's the ladder that you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's where all inner work is. All inner work is in Hishtalshalos. Because beyond Hishtalshalos, right, all the spheroids, all my characteristics, all my insecurities, my wounds, my perceptions, my relationships, they all cease to exist. So I work through Hishtalshalos in order to be able to transcend Hishtalshalos.
So is it possible to reach that full tikkun of nefesh? Or it's like
Each person according to their shlichus.
but Hishtalshalos is pretty infinite.
Of course, Hishtalshalos is pretty infinite. And that's why everybody's life is pretty infinite. But that's the paradox is that in Lamaila Hishtalshalos, there's coherence, there's perfect coherence. You say, yeah, but I have so many messes and this is not worked out and my kids are struggling and this one is struggling. I got it. And you have to, and you want to be responsible. You don't want to shut your eyes and go to the beach and say, I'm higher than Hishtalshalos. I don't deal with this. This is for Hishtalshalos people. This is for Kabbalists. I'm beyond that. It's another form of shutting down, right? When you use Lamaila Hishtalshalos to bypass Hishtalshalos, it's not Lamaila Hishtalshalos. That's what he was struggling with yesterday. When you're using the word Lamaila Hishtalshalos to bypass Hishtalshalos, it's not Lamaila Hishtalshalos. It's bypassing Hishtalshalos. That's not Lamaila. It's Lamata Hishtalshalos. When you have to bypass something, it means you're afraid of it. That means you're lower than it. You're not higher than it. It's not the place of Ein Sof. Whenever you're afraid of something, you're not Ein Sof. Lamaila God, Lamaila Hishtalshalos, he's safe. Hishtalshalos, get out of my way. I'm not interested in you. That's not Ein Sof. Yeah. Of course. That's the essence of Avos Yisrael. Yeah, that's the essence of Avos Yisrael. That's why in the world of the Chassidus, the biggest things were Avos Yisrael and Simcha. Why are those two things? So people who don't understand, they think because the Baal Shem Tov was a nice guy. He didn't like scholarship. He didn't like intellectuals. So what did he focus on? He said, just be happy. Make a kiddush, make a fabrengen, bring some herring and schnapps. You know what I mean? Be happy and love each other. It was like a dumbed down version, Judaism, spirituality for dummies. Go a tencel, give a hug, some bissel schnapps, don't take it so seriously. You know, don't take your ego so seriously. Fine, if there's a few intellectuals, they could continue being intellectuals and take themselves seriously. This is how a lot of people perceive the Baal Shem Tov, especially historians who don't know a thing about Chassidus. He was like a simple man who appreciated simple people who dealt with cows all day and sheep and goats, and they were poor and they couldn't read Aleph Beis. So he said, go to shul, say Tillim, have a nice dibuk chavedim, and thank God for everything, and you'll have the same olam haba like everybody else. They understand the Baal Shem Tov, right? A lot less than I understand black holes. I understand more about black holes, and I don't, then they understand the Baal Shem Tov. People don't understand that the Baal Shem Tov was surrounded, his Talmidim were some of the biggest Gaonim of the generation. The Maggid's Talmidim, like the Alter Rebbe. You're talking about one of the biggest minds in Jewish history. You could see every mimer his mind. So what was he attracted to? Kugel? Schnapps? Herring? Because we don't like intellectuals. You're talking about some of the top intellectual figures in Jewish history. The Likkutei used to say, Zwei Menschen am gekannt lernen. The Rambam and the Alter Rebbe. The Likkutei was not very complimentary. He said, what pshat? He said, those two knew what Abaye and Rava were thinking. Those are the only two who knew what Abaye, they didn't let us learn it. They knew what Abaye and Rava are thinking. The Likkutei has one place in all of his Svarim, Hagon Ha'amiti, on the Alter Rebbe. For him to write on somebody a gon is b'chlal a miracle. Alter Rebbe writes, Hagon Ha'amiti. I mean, he wasn't Geiris, the biggest Acharonim he wasn't Geiris. I mean, he was a different type of gon. I'm just bringing out, you're not talking about a person who was attracted to the world of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid because, he was nice, and you got to give hope to simple people who have nothing, and they can't learn Gemara, and they can't master Halacha, and they can't master Bavli Yerushalmi. So therefore, you tell them, God loves you, and love each other, and just let's smile, and make up a joke, and tell up some moifis, und weiter gegangen. Akvitzes haderech, fine, we'll tell you a story about horses, and you'll get excited. No, that's what people still, there's people who still think that. Even Hasidim themselves don't know anything, a lot of them. You're talking about Pnimi Yisatayra, you're talking about Yechidish B'Torah, you're talking about the most sophisticated articulation of Judaism since Matan Torah. The reason there was a focus by the Baal Shem Tov on Avos Yisrael and Simcha is fakert. It's because when you're Megala, what's L'mayla Me'ishtalshalus, the two natural emotions are love and bliss. It's a natural symptom. You're in a place of love and you're in a place of bliss. That's Ava and Simcha. B'meila, simple people can also find their space. That's true. Because in L'mayla Me'ishtalshalus, everybody is one. The fact that you have this IQ, I have this IQ is a gewaldige Inyan, and you have to use it. Because if God gave you talents and resources, this is your shlichus. If somebody is capable of being a gon oilam and they say, I'm going to milk cows, it's an avla. Because they're betraying their shlichus. Right? Everybody has to know who they are and what God wants them to be. That's in the world of ishtalshalus, and that you have to respect. Because dira b'tachtoinam. But in the real pnimi there's an achtos that transcends all of that. And some people don't like that, because if Judaism ultimately is based on ego, and ultimately I want to be the Talmud Chacham, I want to be the Gadol, I want everybody to look up to me, this idea is not very popular. Even very subtle, even if I'm not talking about a narcissist, but even somebody, I worked hard, I want to be in the hierarchy, I want to be on top there. Kavod HaTorah, Kavod Talmidei Chachamim, they accused the Baal Shem Tov of destroying Kavod HaTorah. They used to always say, he destroyed Kavod HaTorah. Why did he destroy Kavod HaTorah? Because he started to speak about God. I'll call upon him. So this is Yesod HaYesodis. So Kol HaMeidich BeEchad means that the Echad is not Stam an Echad. It comes with harichas. And Alter Rebbe says, what's pshat? That's the whole davening before Echad. The whole davening before Echad is really learning Eitz Chaim. And that's why there's so many kavanas of Kabbalah and davening. The whole Psukkah de Zimra is Shishtalshalus. All the halalukas. Halalu malachav, halalu tzvav, shemesh, yareach, koich v'yor. Right? Taninim, Tahimus, Eish, Bara, Chela, Kitter, Ruach, Sara, Isadvar, Harim, Gvayas. What are you talking? You're talking about mountains, you're talking about trees, you're talking about cedars, you're talking about animals, you're talking about insects, you're talking about birds, you're talking about kings. Hallelujah, it's Shem Hashem. It's all Shem Hashem. Shem. That was his mashal of the name, the Melech. What's the relationship of the Melech to the island? The name. That's what they know. They know the name. How much of the Melech do they have? Nothing. They have the name. They have everything, but they have nothing. That's Hallelujah Shem Hashem. That's the punchline. The Hallelujah Shem Hashem, because that's what they know. They know the name of God. You can't expect them to know anything besides God. You thought he was saying with Hashem. Of course you only know the name of the king. How are they supposed to have more than the name of the king? How is an ant or a squirrel or a mountain, Mount Everest or the Himalayas, or the sun or the moon or the greatest stars, galaxies, brains, how are they supposed to know more than the name? What do you want from them? When their entire existence came from the Tzimtzum. If your entire existence comes from the Tzimtzum, how can you know more than the name? All you could know is that which you're allowed to perceive after the complete suspension of self. Verstehst? Once you go there, and then you say Hallelu, Bigvurois, Hallelu, Kirov, Gudloi, which is one pasuk. Those are the two Hallelujahs in one pasuk. Stalter Rebbe teaches, what's Rov Gudloi? Remember? The infinite diversity of Chesed. But that's all based on Gvuroisav, on Tzimtzum. Because even the highest level of Gudloi is all based on Gvura. So after all of this, what is this? This is finding the divine in your system. This is working through. This is the inner work of Ishtalshalus. Now you're ready for Kol HaMayrich Be'echad. This is the Arichas. Now, okay, and now saying this is all Ishtalshalus. And now could you surrender all of this to L'maylam Ishtalshalus? Ein Arich. And over here it's complete silence. It's complete surrender. And it's complete love. And this is Yechidah Shebenefesh love. Because it fills you completely. Because it's not limited. So if we are created beings, why are we even talking about this? Or to put it differently, how did Alter Rebbe know about L'maylam Ishtalshalus? Who told him? I don't understand. If we're all in Ishtalshalus, so that's the whole Inyan. That's the whole Inyan. That Ishtalshalus is a stepping stone. It's not a destination. The author of Ishtalshalus is using Ishtalshalus as a tool, not as a destination. Because you always have to ask a question. Why would the author of Ishtalshalus create Ishtalshalus just to dumb down reality, and we all remain dumbed down? So the truth is, Ishtalshalus is just the opportunity to connect to the source of Ishtalshalus, but this time bringing together the whole Ishtalshalus. Yeah. 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 That's why he says, because the soul is rooted, this is Yechidah Shebenefesh. Yeah, it's rooted in the Ratzon Shalamaylam and Adas, beyond Ishtalshalus. So in the Neshama could be felt and experienced, so to speak, this reality that's pre-Ishtalshalus. And that's what Echad means. And still we have to respect the fact that there's something called Ishtalshalus.
The only thing they know about God is that his name is not God.
Very good. So now let's see inside. Gimel. The Olam is typhus a little bit. This mimer you have to learn 60 times, 70 times, 100 times, 101 times. Me'eh pa'amim ve'echad. Mayrich be'echad. Me'eh pa'amim ve'echad.
Now you don't forget. What happened to the heck one? Stay
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully. These things you can forget in 3 seconds. Somebody triggers you, it's all out the window. Gimel. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Somehow the Lego didn't learn the mimer, yeah. No, it's important because people who, I told you yesterday, why do we say Baruch Shem by Shema Yisrael? You say from Shema, go to Vahafta. Baruch Shem is Ishtalshalus. The answer is, the Alter Rebbe explains, because if you don't bring the Echad and into the world of Ishtalshalus, you can have a very big nefillah. Because there are moments of coherence, there are moments of real bliss in a person's life that you could get close to this. Again, every person according to their capacity. But there are such moments. But there are also other moments. And therefore, there's nichnas b'shalom and there's yatsa b'shalom. There's the ability to know that this is true even when I'm not experiencing it fully. When I'm in a place of mamala kalam and not seiv of kalam. And mamala kalam and not an atzilis, but an asiyah. And not an asiyah haruchnis, but an asiyah hagashmis. And not necessarily in kedusha, but in another place. It's also true. But then I have to work through and open my experience. So, but the person always has to connect it to all the parts of themselves, including the ishtalshalus part. Because if not, when that erupts, they're like, what happened? This is not supposed to happen to me. Reb Tzadok, I don't want to get into this. Reb Tzadok HaKayin of Lublin has a sefer called Machshavas Charutz. Machshavas Charutz, Reb Tzadok of Lublin. The first chapter over there, I taught this to the women before Tisha B'Av. He says something incredible. He says, what was the downfall of Oisya Ish, of Yoshka and Shapsi Tzvi? And Reb Tzadok says this. He says they had this is what he writes, they had very holy sparks, and they were prushim. They were ascetics. They were spiritual ascetics. They went very deep. He compliments them. And he says, the Nachash came into them and told them that there's something beyond what they really are. When the Nachash told Adam, if you eat from the tree, v'yisim ke'eloikim, you're going to be like Hashem. So that's what happened to them. The moment they began to believe that they crossed the border of humanness and they went into the divine. And once that happens, you can only go one of two ways. Either you wake up one morning and you're like, I'm not the divine. I'm just a regular guy who wants to eat a hot dog with ketchup and some mustard and sauerkraut. Huh? Yeah. That's one thing that happens. And then you just have a nefillah. You just get completely disillusioned and you lose it. Or when you see that, you completely deny that and you dig deeper into your illusion of divinity. And then you become a dangerous person. What happened was they completely lost touch with their humanness, with their vulnerability. Whenever that happens to people, it's a very, very dangerous moment. Either they're going to lose everything, they'll just plot because they'll see what a joke it was, and I'm done, and you just become so disillusioned and cynical, to the nth degree, Or the opposite. You go deeper into your illusion and into your demyonis, and now you just completely lose touch with reality. And he says, because they were so spiritual, that happened to them. They wouldn't have been so spiritual. They would come back. They would say, okay, you're just one of the boys. You like cheesecake. Here's some sushi. Here's a couple of dollars. Go to Miami for a few days. Go book yourself a nice hotel. But once you have that deep spirit, no, I'm not interested in that. And yet you lost your contact with your vulnerability, with your frailty. It becomes a complete disaster because you're not God. They forsake the tachlis, but in that process they also create destruction, because what happens is, when you think you're divine, to really be divine means that you don't exist. You understand? You can't exist as the divine. You can exist as a nefesh habahamis. That you can exist. If you're divine, you don't exist. You're bottle. That's what it means you're divine. Divine means that you don't exist. To have, like Moshe, v'nachnu ma. I don't exist. That's why Moshe could say, I'm giving the rain. V'nasati mitar artzachem. How can he say v'nasati, you're giving rain? Because his eye was completely bottled with Metzias. You want the cake and you want to eat it too. You want to be a Metzias and divine. Now that's called Avodah Zarah. That's Avodah Zarah. You can be a yesh. If you want to be divine, no problem. But there's no yesh. It's ice you. I'm talking experientially, I don't mean intellectually.
So it means God exists, it's the last Avodah Zarah in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use those words because it could be misconstrued, but that's true, yeah. Yeah. The echad is not there anymore. And it's very tempting because you are spiritual. They're not just hedonistic, materialistic, lowly people. They touched very deep frequencies. And that's why it's so important to always go higher than Ishtalshalus. In Ishtalshalus, you can get stuck. Higher than Ishtalshalus, it's bittul b'metzias. And dafka, when you're going to those places, you need it like a billion times more. People don't understand what it means to be a real tzaddik. The biggest chiddush in all the Maimadim of the Alter Rebbe, you know what it is? Or all the Maimadim of the Rebbe, you know what the biggest chiddush? The biggest chiddush is, it's unbelievable stuff, and yet the bittul of the people teaching it there's not a word of self here. Nothing ever. Egos come out at some point, even if you're very smart. It comes out once a year, once in 10 years, once in 20 years, even if you're hiding it. That's the biggest chiddush. There's a person who's teaching this. This wasn't taught from AI. AI couldn't teach this. AI doesn't know about Sovev Kalam. So there's a person teaching it, right? A person teaching it, you could get in the way. It doesn't exist. You see, by that reason, the level of bittul, that's where you see people who went to the highest places, but they remained completely channels. The levels of humility are so beyond, that's why there's not an ounce of corruption there, nothing. You'll never find anything corrupt. There's no disappointment, they don't let you down. Because this never became about me, never became about him, about anybody. Like I'm just complete hollow channels. No, it's an incredible thing. So everybody could find themselves there because it's just the heartbeat of truth. It's the heartbeat of God. Like who does God belong to? He belongs to the Alter Rebbe, belongs to the Arizal, belongs to the Baal Shem Tov. But the other people, they said, yeah, he belongs to me. I'm him. Right? It's a very subtle thing. It's not in the open. They don't make an announcement. I'm God. It's a very, very subtle thing. Very subtle thing. And you have it even today in our community. You have rabbis. They're very talented. They're very Rosh Hashivas, Rebbes. Some of them are very, very deep people. But the moment, it's like a very subtle border. And maybe very few people know it. But they know it if they're honest with themselves. The moment it goes out of the realm of bittul into the realm of I'm part of the story, it's very, very, it becomes a dangerous reality. Dafka, because if they're just teaching, the laws of ribis, okay. But if they're teaching the laws of the soul, if they're just teaching technical things, fine, okay. There's a source you could look at. But the moment a person is dealing with these stuff, if they're not working on themselves, everybody's allowed to make mistakes. We all have egos, but I'm saying they're not working on themselves, it becomes a disaster. Yeah, the moment you want bittul from everybody, right? And it's to you, it's not to God, it's a very dangerous thing. The Rebbe once told a Yid, a mashpia, he said, whatever you ask from other people, you have to ask at least double of for yourself. Whatever you ask of other people, if you want to be, you have to ask at least double of yourself. If you're not doing that, then you're in the wrong job. That means the level of bittul you're asking from the people, you have to be asking of yourself at least double. Why? Why double? The same. You don't want to be a hypocrite. It's not the same. Because if you want to be in the state where you're giving it, that means you have to be more of a channel, not less of a channel. So it's very, very fundamental. A lot of people, they don't want to deal with this. I want to use this information to build my malucha. Well, you want to use this information to build the malucha, it has nothing to do with this information. So you ashtikal avodah zara, which is really coming from your trauma. The reason anybody needs this is only because of trauma, because if they would know who they are, they wouldn't need it. Alter Rebbe was very happy with bittul. He wasn't upset. Like, oh, I can't be a yesh. Yeshes is taxis. It's an illness. It's an emotional illness, yeshes. Which we are emotionally ill. It's true. We are emotionally ill, so we need validation. And the more emotionally ill I am, the more validation I need. And if I'm really emotionally ill, then I need absolute validation. Right? Yoshkan Shabbos Yitzri, and that's why they don't get married or their marriages don't last, because Jewish women are the worst for avodah zaros. They are like genetically programmed to smash every idol. Sometimes they go overboard. Okay, that's fine. Very often. Sometimes they don't even know it. Sometimes God just sends them the messages. They don't always know it. But they smell. They smell. Eze kenegdai. What's that Eze kenegdai? Yeah. Remember that you're not God. You're not even God's gift to the world. There's even a question if you exist. Oh, Baruch Hashem, now you can have a little bittul. The deepest marriages, I think, are those marriages where the husband can actually really, really agree with his wife, but not from a place of defensiveness, from a place of true vulnerability, and then finding the strength from that space. And when the woman realizes it, she says, oh, you can trust this guy. I once read, somebody wrote something very wise. I don't know why I'm saying this, but okay. He wrote that a guy comes home. He did amazingly well that day in work. He made $1 million. That day he made $1 million went into his bank account. Okay. Not bad for a Borough Park, poor kid. He comes home excited. Who does he share with? His wife. I made $1 million today. Stone-faced. She's stone-faced. She says, did you bring home milk? He says, no, I asked you to bring home milk on the way home. This is her response. He's like, I could buy you a dairy farm. She says, I don't need a dairy farm. I just needed a bottle of milk for my coffee. We don't have milk. The kids need milk. Right? What happens now? The one thing is, he becomes defensive. He becomes angry. Here's a woman who doesn't understand how hard I work, doesn't appreciate what just happened, is completely out for lunch, completely doesn't respect me, completely delegitimizes me. Really? A bottle of milk? A bottle of milk that we can Uber eat in 20 seconds for $7? $7 will be Uber Eat, or less, $4. Yeah? And here I made $1 million, but you're busy with your $4. So now he's upset. So she gets more upset. He goes to his room. Whatever. That's one. I don't have to elaborate, but he understands that option. Huh? You don't know what you mean because you make $1 million every day and your wife appreciates it. And you don't forget the milk. Both things. You make $1 million and you don't forget the milk. But not all of us do that. Some of us make $1 million and don't forget the milk. Some of us don't forget the milk. We don't make $1 million. And then many of us don't make $1 million and we forget the milk. And some of us send somebody else to buy the milk. They're smart, right? And then then there's another husband who's like, he starts laughing, he starts giggling, and he gives his wife a hug, and he's giggling, and he says, I love you, honey, I'm going to get you your bottle of milk. Boom, diffused it. He said, what really happened? This person's analysis is right. He said, what really happened? Consciously or subconsciously, she was trying to tell her husband two things. First of all, I want to test you. I want to see if you need my validation to feel good about yourself. Number one. And second of all, do you need the $1 million to feel good about yourself? Are those the two things that give you identity? Number one, that I say, wow, Eze Geve, Eze Chatich. Finally, a man. Wow. Do you need me for your existence? And do you need the $1 million for your validation? And that's the job of a good woman. If he doesn't pass the test, he goes crazy because she didn't validate him, then he failed the test. If he passes the test, now she could lean into more love, more trust. Somebody to trust, somebody who's not defined by $1 million, somebody who's not defined by his wife's compliments. Those are two big things for men, very hard for men. Either you need $1 million for validation or you need the wife's compliments of validation. Finally, he doesn't need either. She can trust him, and tomorrow she tests him again. Next level. Anyway, why am I saying this? Why are we talking about this? What were we talking about before? I forgot. Okay. The ego. The ego, yeah. What real marriage is, yeah. Crack people open, yeah. So our emotional traumas and wounds turn us into people who really desperately want to be on a pedestal, at least some of us. And this one needs to be a celebrity, this one needs validation, this one needs to be a big Rebbe, this one needs to be a big leader. And it's coming from a very, very deeply wounded place. And all their people suffer from it because their leaders are wounded. They're wounded people. They need emotional help. It's not their fault even. They're not even... It's usually a survival mechanism. That sometimes they're actually very good people. They just don't realize I could be blind and unconscious. And you lure people into that and they don't realize, they don't know the difference. When emotionally unhealthy people become leaders, spiritual leaders, the leadership is imbued with toxicity. And even if they mean well and there's good things happening, but that's what happens. People don't trust themselves. There's something off. There's a dissonance. That's why Yechidush B'Nefesh is always pure. It's b'chol avavcha, only in l'mayla mishtalshalos. Because over there, there's the last vestige of self is gone. So the whole heart could surrender into it. You know, there's no mistaking experiencing bliss in the totality of your heart. Experiencing one. You can't mistake it. You can't forge it. I can't say, okay, I want you all to feel now bliss. It's tortured. Everybody knows the difference of tortured bliss and genuine bliss. Let's be happy. Simchas Torah, when people are miserable, but they're being happy. You know that feeling? Nobody wants to be there. They're not interested in dancing. They hate every moment of it. I need a shower and I need my bed. Right? But it's Simchas Torah. It's like Simchas Torah. More guilt, more shame. Huh? So you bring vodka to save the day. Jene Simchas Torah, verstehst? What's the answer to that? The answer to that is truth. Any bliss that's coming with guilt and shame and ritual and you have to be and you should be. Huh? If somebody feels like that's Simchas Torah, they should learn this mimer alone and internalize it and breathe into it and get into a deeper place and then show up with presence. And maybe they need to be there less time. Maybe they need to hang out with different people. It's just about, I'm not saying relinquishing responsibility, but I'm saying when we show up with real presence, there's just no mistake for it. It's just genuine. There's when your heart is open, your heart is open. Your kids will right away feel it. There's the heart closed and I'm just saying the right thing, which is good. It's much better than being an impulsive, angry father who's screaming like a lunatic because he's honest. That's not what I'm advocating. To be honest and tell everybody what you think about them 24/7, you'll end up in jail. Right? But there's no mistaking when there's a real open heart. B'chol levavcha, it's felt. You're in a very, very deep space of just connection, of attachment. The heart is open. There's no defensiveness. There's no defensiveness. Pure authenticity, and all your guards can be down. Now, can I be here 24/7? You're not here 24/7. If you're here one moment in 24 hours, it's already a powerful blessing. But it gives you a paradigm of where I want to be. And when I'm being distracted, I'm being overwhelmed, I'm being anxious, I can hold space for it. I can have compassion for it. I could say, okay, this is hard, and I'm angry, and I'm upset, and I want to be obnoxious, and I want to be rude, and I want to break the window, and I want to punch his nose, and I want to break his glasses, and I want to run to New Zealand for a few years. Okay, fine. My Ishtalshalos is a little disrupted. My animal consciousness needs to survive. But I could also watch it and not become it. I could watch it, and I could lean into a deeper space based on the memory of what it felt like when I experienced it. Does this make sense a little bit? I know it's not taught. This is not taught, right? I know that. Not yet.
How do you correct yourself by teaching kids differently when you already taught them in the back?
Excellent question. How do we correct it when we have taught our children the opposite, and how can we fix it? I don't think we could fix it with our children. I think the only ones we could fix it is with ourselves. But when we really go into a different space, everybody around us starts feeling it. People start feeling it. They call it today co-regulation. If I'm very regulated and you're standing with me, I will co-regulate you. You will co-regulate me. I told the women a few weeks ago, I think it was Pesach time, somebody sent me a clip. My wife actually sent me a clip. It was just such a beautiful clip. There was a kitten, a cat that was brought from, she was in danger, and they rescued her. So they brought her into the cage in the house, and there was a mother cat. It wasn't her actual mother, but she had the instincts of a mother. And this kitten was traumatized. She was obviously in the cold or hungry or dangerous or lost her parent, whatever. I don't know exactly the details, but you could see that every time the mother cat came over, she started to scream and clunch up and become uptight and go into her corner. So I'm watching, it's like just a minute video, minute and a half, how this mother cat behaves. She doesn't leave. Okay, you don't want, you don't want me? I'm not here. Bye. She doesn't run away, but she just doesn't impose herself. She stays there, very present, and you could feel her regulation. And then she touches her a drop, and again she goes back, and she stays there. She looks at her, and she's just very, very calm. And literally, after 40, 50 seconds, you could see how the kitten starts feeling the safety and gets a little closer, and then allows herself to be embraced by her. Over there, it took 50 seconds. By us, it takes 50 years. But it showed that paradox. On one hand, she didn't run away. Oh, you're not interested in me? That's where I become defensive. It's like, because you're wounded, I don't have to take it personally. Right? Sometimes your kids are like, I'm not interested in you, I don't want to hear you. And parents take it personal. It's like, okay, I'm not your father anymore. Go, find yourself another father. Okay, now you're the baby who needs help. Don't take it personal. The kitten is traumatized. Fine. But don't impose yourself. Just like we remain regulated, and people feel it. They experience it. So I don't know that we could change. I don't think we could change anybody. All we can do is do this inner work internally, and when we show up in that space, everybody is affected in one way or another. Sometimes it takes time. I think that's the truth. I don't think, we could, obviously if we have to apologize, we can apologize and have sincere conversations and open conversations. We should do that. But ultimately, we will prove our conviction not through words, but through presence. You fill up your own cup and it overflows, right? I don't fill other people's cups. You fill up your own cup, and miyadei hamleya hapsucha hagdosha, the Baal Shem Tov Siddur, it says hagdusha, moli v'gadish, it overflows. In the Baal Shem Tov Siddur, it says instead of hagdosha, it says hagdusha, with a gimel, not with a kuf. It's like moli v'gadish. Okay, we'll learn for a few minutes here.
Consider all day.
Meirich be'echad. Meirich be'echad. Let's learn for a few minutes, okay? Siv Gimel. Here starts a big question. If this is all true, ve'emes, the truth is, interesting how he starts the Siv. Ve'emes, it's emes, sha'tanoyim va'ameroyim lo'hoyum ma'arichin kol kach b'tfilah. The Tanoim and the Ameroyim did not have a long davening. They weren't ma'arich so much in tefillah. Ubefrat b'psukei de zimra, especially psukei de zimra, meaning the brachas before Krias Shema. That's a takana from Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. So that they said in the time of the Mishnah and Gemara. Tanoim and Amirayim. That comes from the beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash. They were mesaken brachas and they were mesaken the nusach of davening. Shemoneh Esrei. But everything before that is added later. So the Tanoim and Amirayim, their tefillah is not long. The time of the first Beis HaMikdash, there was b'chlal no tefillah. There was no Shemoneh Esrei. How did you daven? You davened the way you wanted. You went out to your field or you stayed in your house and you prayed. How long? Could be a minute, could be an hour, could be 7 hours. With this shear, you say? Oh. Yeah. The whole Shemoneh Esrei was nistakein in the beginning of Bayesheni. The Rambam explains this in Hilchos Tefillah at length. The Anshe Knesset HaGedolah decided to make a text for davening 3 times a day, Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv. But even later, all the additions weren't there. All the additions, they had basic, they had brachas, they had Krias Shema. Krias Shema is a mitzvah min Torah. They made Shemoneh Esrei. But a lot of additions, as the generations go on, they add more things. That's the idea of Meya brachas. That's just throughout the day. But we're talking about tefillah. So l'chayre, if you're saying that this is all the kol ha'meirich be'echad, this is all the seder ishtalshalos to be able to get to echad every single day, because for the Alter Rebbe, this is really what davening is. Davening is working through your ishtalshalos to be able to take the jump to above ishtalshalos. You can't surrender if you're not safe. I think I just nailed it. You can't surrender to infinity if you're not safe. Yeah. Especially to infinity. Because surrender means abuse. Surrender means you're going to use me, you're going to exploit me. I'm not going to surrender if I'm not safe. You got to be crazy to do that. You don't put down your head, right? Your massage therapist says put down your head, get down on your stomach. I'm not going to do that if I think he's going to put a knife into my back. You run away. You call the police. This is even true to a person. There's no way you're surrendering to infinity if you're not feeling safe. That's why you need to work through your hishtalshalos in order to go to above hishtalshalos. You understand? To tell somebody just surrender to infinity. This is a traumatized cat. He had not a second of safety. I don't surrender to anything. I stay with a bulletproof vest like this. I don't budge. I stay frozen, and I look, and I look, and I look, and if after a year I see that you're a nice guy, I'll crack a smile, at best. I see everybody relates to this, right? So the whole Inyan here is bittul b'metzias and ein sof. You have to be safe. That's where we work through hishtalshlus. Hishtalshlus means you work through your system. You recognize your system. Yeah, I'm stuck here. Yeah, I'm resentful here. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm jealous. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm angry at my kids. I'm angry at my parents. I'm angry at my spouse. I'm angry at my husband. I'm angry, whatever. I'm angry at the world. I'm angry at God. I'm angry at my rabbi. I'm angry at everybody. I'm angry at the guy who took the soup before me because there was no soup left. Wow, okay. But Hani Hashem lo shanisi. I couldn't care less. I want soup. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. That's his problem, not mine. I need soup. And he took soup before me and he finished the last thing of soup. If you cannot acknowledge that, you're in danger of becoming Shapsi Tzvi. Shapsi Tzvi's problem was he stopped acknowledging that he liked soup. And somebody took the soup before him and he got upset. Yeah. You need to work through your hishtalshlus. You must acknowledge. I know I'm bringing it down maybe to a very base level because there's so much deeper in hishtalshlus, but it's important because these are the blockages to love. These are the blockages to love. People don't realize that. They don't want to go here because it's not comfortable. It's not geschmack. Me, soup. What, I need soup? Somebody here in shul took my soup and that's what made me obsessed? Yeah. Your nefesh Bahamas likes soup. It's hungry. I'm sorry, you're not so mystical. But yesterday I did meditation and breath work and I was like somewhere between Bria and Atzilus. Okay. But now you want soup. You're not in Atzilus, you're not in Bria. You're a hungry Homo sapien who wants to replenish his cells and you want soup. That's it. It's as simple as that. There's something very beautiful about that. There's something very beautiful. There's something about saying, my son came into the kitchen and said this and this, my daughter said this, and it triggered the living daylights out of me and I got into a bad mood for 2 hours. Okay, wow. You could begin work at that moment. You could begin work. If you say, Sepasnish, nobody triggers me. Really, nobody triggers you. Sure, your mother-in-law doesn't trigger you. I don't mean your mother-in-law. She's a tzaddikus. I don't mean my mother-in-law either. Everybody else's mother-in-law. Yeah. My mother-in-law could be listening, so... and ich darf noch naden. I didn't make my 100 billion yet. Ich darf noch naden. I don't know if you need naden. It's so important because if you could work through this, you could say, you know what, yeah, there's an insecurity here. But you're fine. You're safe. It's just your little animal consciousness got threatened because whatever, it feels like it lost control. And you could give it the comfort it needs. You know what happens now? Now it can join you b'chalavavcha. You understand? Now that part of you can join the surrender. When you recognize it without judgment, and then you can give it what it needs. You could say you're safe, you're fine. Your kid is not threatening you. There's something painful that just triggered. Maybe it taught you that you weren't the father you wanted to be. Or he doesn't appreciate you for who you are. Whatever that means, that's very deep. It means you're a father, 10, 20, 30 years, you sacrifice your life, you work like a dog to support these kids, and they don't appreciate you. Okay, that's hard. That's hard. It means there's shame, there's guilt, I'm a failure. I tried so hard to be a good father. I was told that I won't be a good father. And I tried so hard, and I'm still, and this spoiled kid, and we right away get angry and we put it on the child. It's fine. So the Nefesh Bahamas is now struggling. To tell him, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, it's not going to work. It's just not real. It's not real. I'm being as cynical as you now. But it's not cynicism. You have to be able to address that. You have to be able to give it space. You have to be able to heal it as much as you can. There's different levels of healing. But you know what happens then? What happens then, it can join you in the experience of surrendering to Hashem. If not, it protests. It's like a little kid who stays in the side of the house. I'm not joining the party. That little piece in our heart says, I will not join all of this. I will not. You're not safe. And then we cannot really feel love. We cannot really feel love. We will not feel love because it's not b'chol avavcha. There's a part of us that will remain alienated from it. I will not join this party. I will not join this dance. Yeah, yeah. And then what happens is, and if I don't understand what's happening, right, I bypass it even more. I judge it even more. I condemn it even more. I deny it even more. So it becomes even more defiant, and it really creates a blockage. And after a few years, you see that the love you're experiencing is very, very skin deep. It's not real. Something is off. There's a torture. And again, there's no faking this. I could fake it in a shir, but I can't fake it in my experience. Everybody knows when your heart is open, when your heart is closed. When your heart is open, you feel it. You feel it. You could feel your wife coming into the room or your child coming into the room. Your heart is just open. You're present. You're enjoying it. It's not this nothing. You can't fake any of this. I mean, I could be so crazy and tell myself it, but we're talking about people who are real and trying to be real. Everybody knows this. Your heart is open or your heart is closed. Rosh Hashanah, your heart is open or it's closed. Yom Kippur, it's open or it's closed. There's no faking it. Sure, I can come to shul and I can fast and I can close my eyes and I could sing loud. And sometimes the people who sing loudest are the most closed, because I'm trying to prove to myself that I'm inspired. I could do all this, but Hashem Elokim Emes. Either it's true or it's not true. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying I'm not there, and it's aspirational. That's fine. We're not saying everybody has to. We can't be there all the time. But the more I can acknowledge that I'm not there, the more I can get there. It's counterintuitive, because you can take that little child who's throwing a tantrum with you. You could say, okay, wow, yeah, you just got so triggered and I'm here for you and I'm going to provide safety, and you can go into it and you can be vulnerable and you have people who can hold space for it instead of judging you. And you know what happens? And now you could say, now let's go to a deeper place. And then you can have b'chol avavcha. Then you can really have b'chol avavcha. The entire heart can be part of the love. The entire heart. Because no part of it has to go away from it. No part of it. No part of it. You understand what I'm saying, everybody? You feel what I'm saying? I'm not talking philosophy now. I'm talking from my own experience. I'm talking from my own experience. I'm not talking philosophy here. And that's the real idea when you say l'mayla me'ishtalshalus is really b'chol avavcha, because it can include everything. It doesn't amputate anything. If I'm amputating something, I'm not going to be able to touch that. Ani Hashem lo shanisi must be saturated. If it's real lo shanisi, it's everything. If it's everything, I have to do work with those pieces. If not, it's not going to be everything. So the Alter Rebbe, okay, I'm going to go another 5 minutes and then we'll stop and we'll have a shir Monday morning. I wasn't planning to, but I'm leaving later, so Monday morning I want to finish, because I really want to finish the mimer.
Get with full charge, because we need it to last.
So I just want to learn mamash a few minutes here. So the Tanoim and Amirayim didn't daven for so long, especially Psukkah de Zimra. So l'chayr, it's a contradiction to everything he's saying. You're saying that this is the whole avoid of tefillah every day. You begin with ishtalshalos, and then you go to echad, kol ha'mayrich be'echad. You need the mayrich. You need the mayrich. So what? So what they do? They got up. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It doesn't work that way. So it's undermining everything. So the Rebbe says, "Rak hainu lefi shayu gvoyim ma'od b'mayla." So he says, you have to understand who the Tanoim and Amirayim were. They were extremely sensitive. They were extremely connected to a higher energy. Mimer Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Reb Shimon ben Yochai says in Zohar, "Bechad ktira is katarna." Ketira in Aramaic means kesher, connection. Tes and shin are exchangeable. With one knot have I become bound up with Hashem. Bechad ktira, like two things become connected through a knot, like two parts of a string, a rope. Bechad ktira, with one kesher is katarna. Also the word k'toiris is connected to this. The word k'toiris means connection. because the point of the burning the incense, which was really an aroma experience, was a way of intimate connection. It says in Chassidus, the difference between karbonis and k'tairis. What's the difference? Karbonis was one of the Rebbe's last Fabrengens, actually, Shabbos Tetzavin and Beis. He gave a whole sich on this. Karbonis is Mizbeach HaChitzin, the outer Mizbeach. K'tairis, you weren't allowed to do on the outer Mizbeach. It was Mizbeach HaPnimi, the golden Mizbeach, inside the Eichel. You weren't allowed to bring Karbonis into the Mizbeach HaPnimi, you weren't allowed to bring K'tairis into the Mizbeach HaChitzin. What's Pshat? Because there's two stages in Avodas Hashem. Karbonis is slaughtering an animal. You're battling an animal. Literally, you're taking an animal, you're slaughtering it, you're taking out its fat, you're putting it on the Mizbeach, giving it up to God. You're taking its blood, you're giving it up to God. That's like real animal inner work of dealing with your animal stuff. That's Mizbeach HaChitzin. That's on the outside. Mizbeach HaPnimi is a different experience. What was K'tairis? There was no blood, there was no meat, there was no fat, there was no slaughtering. What was it? You took coal, you took herbs, incense, 11 types of species, and you threw it, you hurled it, you spread it on the burning coal on the Mizbeach, and the combination of the fire with the incense created an aroma, Tam Gan Eden. Right? It says the whole Yerushalayim was affected by the aroma of the Ketores. Imagine in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, if you ever smelled something that incredibly fragrance, it fills you with a certain delight. It's not a battle. It's just like, like a piece of music, like you melt in it. Yeah, and that's why they use perfume and cologne, all of these things, right? Yeah. The Tefer Shlomo lit the Tzanzer pipes, the Tzanzer Dov's pipe. So Ketores, what is that? That's Mizbeach HaPnimi. That's when you reach a deeper space of intimacy with Hashem. Over there it's about pleasure. It's not about battling an animal. You need Avodas HaKarbonis because we have an animal with taivas and addictions and everything that the animal has, all its issues. But the Ketores is a different avodah. That's why it was on the inside. It represents the Pnimiyas Halev, not the Chitzonius Halev. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai uses these words and he says in Zohar, Bechad Ktiri is Katarna. Shaya nitves echad emes belevavam beizbainenus mu'etes bepa'am achas. Unbelievable words. By the Tanoim and Amayroyim, this echad that we're talking about, this truth, antu chad v'la b'chushbin, it was grasped in their hearts through small meditation, one time, bepa'am achas. It was like a peg etched in their heart that would not falter for eternity. Sometimes, especially people who did a lot of inner work know that transformation happens in a millisecond. It's not like we sit, there's a moment, you have a clarity, boom. The challenge is the clarity goes away the next day or the next week or the next month. But in that moment, it's like everything is clear. The moment the blockages are gone. That's what he says. They just got it. They went into that space of echad, complete coherence, complete regulation, complete trust, complete surrender, complete faith, complete love. In that oneness of Antu Chad, where you are in the womb of God, they got it, they experienced it, and it was there. They didn't now the cake distracts me, now the phone distracts me, now this person distracts me, now. They weren't distracted, they were just there. They went into it and it stayed. They felt safe, completely safe. There's a parenthesis here, but if you turn to the next page, 24, the second line. And that's the background to the whole Shas. We don't understand. When we learn Mishnayos Gemara, we don't realize all of these teachings were coming from the place of Echad. They were completely absorbed in that space. And from there came all their teachings. Everything. We are much more megushamim. Megushamim means we live in a material incarnation. Megusham means very like material. And we are remote from transcendence, from ruchnis, from spiritual energy. Yes, you need the arichis. You need the time, the resources, the meditation, the breathing, the learning, the experiencing the letting go, until your heart and mind experiences a reality called Ruchnius. And to understand that the entire physical reality we're looking at and becoming intoxicated by or scared of is such a descent from the top of the mountain to the lowest bar. As he said, that Ishtalshalus, even the highest levels of Ishtalshalus are such a leap from Ein Sof. And then you come to the lowest levels and then you ask a question like he said at the end of chapter 2. I have a limited amount of time and energy. Do I want to spend it in the realm of concealment or in the realm of reality? Because the whole Gashmis is a result of the Ishtalshalus. You read them more, until there's a tiny glimmer of energy and it descends more and more. Is that where I'm going to spend my entire mental space, in that space of concealment? Or the Gashmis I'm going to see simply as a keli to connect? But that's a very deep avodah to be able to go there, because naturally, intuitively, this is the world, this is everything. What else is there? This is everything. שצריך להסביר לו ההלכה באריכות הדברים ומשלם ומליצת שיינס לקרב אל שכל הקטן לפי קטנוי וריחוקי משכל הגמרא ומידיעת ענייני טבעי במשל הלכה הסוכה. It's like a child. You're introducing a child to the world of Gemara, the world of Mishnayos, a young child. Shnaimer and Betala is two people. Actually, the middle, I think in one of the Hanachas they bring Shnaimer. Two people are holding a talis. This is one says I found it. So I found it. They go to Bezdin, swear. Yeah, it's not so complicated on a basic level. But he says you need to give mishalim, you need to give malitzas, you need phrases, you need words. Why? Two things. First of all, the whole way of thinking of Gemara is beyond him, and second of all, he doesn't know Elam Hazi. He doesn't know about debates and disputes and lies and. So you need to introduce him to a whole new reality. It takes a lot of time, right? That breaking through. You know, we know in yeshiva, the most important thing is that early age to break through, because if not, you already, the next class or the next grade, you're already learning advanced, but you never got the basics. And you have till today, Bachrim adults, they open a Gemara and they don't really understand anything because nobody bothered to create the groundwork. It's like learning Mishnayos without learning Aleph Beis. Just like you need to learn Aleph Beis, right? That's like the structure, building blocks. There's also, learning Hebrew, learning the basic stuff. And if you skip that, it's all a waste of time. So what's his mashal? His mashal is lekach tiknu lanu psuke de zimnu shtayim lefanecha. So if you're that child when it comes to spirituality, you need that too. I can't just throw myself into start the Gemara. He's not shaykh to it. Completely bypassing his entire brain. So that Tanoim and Amirayim, their tefillah could be very short. They didn't need Psukkah de Zimna. They said Shema Yisrael, they were there. But we're like that child that you need to be able to prepare the groundwork and give mishalim and militzas and make the Gemara exciting and make it visual and paint a picture and make a play and bring it to life and explain how it works, and then he'll get the nekuda. Oh, and you did it. But it just took 3 hours or maybe 3 weeks or maybe 3 months. But that's the vart. The same is true. So this is a mashal that in learning that he's giving a mashal for the whole Inyan of tefillah the way it applies to us. Okay, Be'ezer Hashem will continue the mimer Monday morning, 8 o'clock a.m. Everybody should have a beautiful Shabbos. We're here Shabbos. For those who are here Shabbos, we'll have a share tomorrow as well. In a different mimer, everybody a lot of hatzlacha, freilich, and Shabbos Nachamu. Nachamu, Ami Yoymar Elokeichem. B'karev Mamish. Reb Nachum Chernobyl, yeah.
Ik zeg, zo'n morsel van een man klaar. Op zijn oude mensen toen years and years together, and he gets up on the mountain and sees a kid. He asks the kid, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was born on the mountain. He was born on the mountain. Yeah. Bruchim Abayim.
In the middle, and I don't know the whole Mahalach, but I remember that the Rambam says that somewhere that Karbonos is connected to the Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, Mer Nevuchim.
Is that what you basically think? We have to get involved in the Yeshus to get rid of it?
Yeah.
Essentially, the Rambam's admitting that that's what
That's the shit of the Rambam in Karbonas, that it was mitzad avodah zarah. It's connected to this, yeah. Yeah. It's Rabba.
Thank you.
Sure, pleasure to have you.
I gotta bring it to London.
The real thing, the real thing. It's Rabba. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for coming.
There's no way these are and there's no Bali B'tachan and a Shmor.
There's no Bali B'tachan or Shmorgasbord.
There's no one's a whole, except if there's no more schnitzel, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the time for it now, but I've shown this to hundreds of people. Every OTD needs to know this.
Chalakukton. Kuf Chav Dalad.
She goes into the whole husband.